Second in the division, despite starting and just one of the worst NHL starts we have seen. I think they allowed 20 goals over the first 2 games. It was a crazy amount.
Well, and you could telegraph a game against the Sharks 2 weeks in advance and be like, they're losing that game, and then they did.
Yeah.
They were a sad sack organization.
They make a coaching change, and all of a sudden they go all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. They almost caught the Vancouver Canucks, too, for division leader. They only finished 5 points behind the 109-point Vancouver Canucks. Considering the start, the Edmonton Oilers are extremely impressive. And by the way, had a pretty darn good offseason, too. We'll start with Leon Draisaitl extending the deal. Forget the money, forget what he brings to the team. We know the answer to that. Let's talk about the vibes.
On November 1st, the Edmonton Oilers had 5 points in 8 games. Were 30th in league standings, only above Calgary, who also had 5 points, and the Sharks, who had 1 point.
5 out of 16 possible points.
And they ended up second in the
That's
division.
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So the vibes for Leon Draisaitl sticking around 9 more years because he's got the 9th this year.
You don't have to think about it, right? It's just it's a very, very, very important puzzle piece out of the way. And don't bother Connor McDavid with it until July.
Some notable additions, guys, to this team it's fascinating. I feel like they've gotten so much better. The recently bought out Jeff Skinner, who is a goal machine, never played a playoff game in his entire career.
Over 1,000 games.
Looking to break that streak this year. Victor Arvidsson, who was a really big part of the LA Kings a couple of years ago, and obviously the Nashville Predators before that, before he got injured. Matthias Janmark is back. Connor Brown looks to be moving up. Somebody that maybe needs a fresh start is Vasily Podkolzin, who they just brought in from Vancouver. And then on the back end, obviously the CC and Broberg subtractions
Departures.
are
and
tough.
Vinny Desharnais.
And Desharnais, that's right. But there's this kid, Ty Emberson, that people are kind of looking at going, he could be pretty good. Let's start with the forward group. It looks deeper.
It is. Correct. You nailed it. No, they lost Dylan Holloway. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
They lost Warren Fogle. It's unfortunate. We talked in another preview about how...
Don't you ever get to thinking you're irreplaceable, Warren Fogle?
Oh, damn.
That's what I'm
it just doesn't get me hot and bothered, but it's funny. So I look at my Oilers preview, and I haven't done this for any other team, but they're actually kind of unique in this regard. I have an in, an out, and an asterisk, right? So they brought in Jeff Skinner up front. They brought in Victor Arvidsson up front. Podkolzin, I don't know if he's going to make the team out of camp, but they could potentially add him up front. In the asterisk category, there's minus and plus. Evander Kane is an asterisk because we don't know how long he's going to be out, so he's a minus. Asterisk is Adam Henrique, Corey Perry, and on the back end, Troy Stetcher. Those are all 3 guys that they added later in the season last year who they were able to keep. And a lot of Stanley Cup contenders, when they go out and they get guys at the deadline, they're rentals. There's a reason they call them playoff rentals. They don't stick around. And these guys are all sticking around. So if we're having this conversation about the Oilers as a regular season team, because we don't know what they're going to do at the deadline, they're clearly better. You're starting this season with Jeff Skinner, who you didn't have, Arvidsson, who you didn't have, Podkolzin, who you didn't have, Henrique, who you didn't have, and Perry, who you didn't have. Ew. Oh, my God. They're really, really good. It's a solid team.
Jesse, what are your thoughts on the offense?
The offense is going to be fine. Evander Kane's such a fun wrinkle to this season because let's say he misses a significant amount of time, comes back in February. Edmonton's going to be like, oh, we're at the top of the standings, plus we get a free Evander Kane and it's February.
Right.
Like, that's entirely how I see this thing playing out.
Deadline
Like,
pickup.
coming out of All-Star, Evander Kane's like healthy, and Edmonton just gets a free Evander Kane, then they charge the playoffs and everything. The offense is going to be great. If they upgraded from the core that they had last season, and I don't see how this team isn't near the top of the standings all season long.
Now, what that does, if Kane is the guy that comes back and he becomes your deadline addition that you didn't have to trade for, is it does zero in on one of 2 potential weaknesses. Obviously, we don't know how Ty Emberson's going to be. We don't know what Brett Kulak is going to be with the added responsibility. Troy Stetcher, we have a pretty good idea of what Troy Stetcher is.
He's not going to be in the playoff line.
It seems like Edmonton is going to add at some point on the back end, but right now it's Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Emberson, Kulak, Stetcher as your top 6 in theory. How do we feel about that to at least start the season?
You'll feel better about it than you did at the beginning of last season, and the reason for that is Jeff Skinner will be able to stop an asteroid. Jeff Skinner. Shoot. I'm going to do that so many times. Stuart Skinner.
There you go.
Because, like, people forget, Jack Campbell was with the team last year, and he was frigging awful.
Edmonton fans don't forget.
They don't forget that.
They know.
No. But what people do forget is when Jack Campbell was sent down to the minors, Stuart Skinner had a worse save percentage than Jack Campbell did. Mm-hmm. This year should be a little more stable. Stuart Skinner, got better as the season went. He was excellent in the playoffs, and they have Calvin Pickard. That'll be A-okay, and it'll cover up a lot of the blemishes back there. You lose Seaweed Man.
You do lose Seaweed Man to
Vinny Desharnais. You bring in Josh Brown, who's basically Vinny Desharnais replacement, another mean guy. I don't think the featured attraction at the Edmonton Oilers circus is their defense. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of guys in the crowd every night you could probably put in there, and they'd still be okay.
Jesse?
Yeah, if they just get a couple more stops, they're completely fine. And I feel like they're one guy short on the back end. Mm-hmm. I know they brought in Travis Dermott for a PTO, so we'll see if he signs once Kane goes on LTIR or something like that.
Or Nurse, we're not sure if he's going to start totally.
Nurse is not going to be fresh for training camp, but he'll be there skating eventually midway through training camp. So we'll see how that goes. But I feel like you get one guy for the lower end, and we'll see how Eberson is. It's a complete mystery there on what he'll be at the NHL level, but I think he'll be decent, and you have a good 5. It's about filling out the bottom of your defense pairing, which is one of the best problems you can have.
Was Eberson not really familiar to Coach Knobloch as well?
He had him with the Hartford Wolfpack.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. The Oilers are not so subtly getting jam-packed with guys Knobloch has coached, whether it was in Erie or Hartford.
Interesting. Obviously we know Stuart Skinner had the turnaround of the ages last year when he was playing with the Edmonton Oilers. But one guy who played the most games he's played since 2016-2017 is backup Calvin Pickard, who will be back this year. He's 12-7-1 with a 245 goals against average and a 909 save percentage. Gents, trivia question. How many games did Calvin Pickard play for the Leafs?
2.
Jesse?
4.
1 game.
Oh, wow.
That's it? Yes, I know. I was surprised by that, too. I was like, wait, I thought
feels like he was the starting goaltender for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. It does. Okay, so this tandem, how do you feel about it?
It's fine.
It's fine. It's going to be
good
fine.
enough.
No, Stuart's going to prove that he's an elite goaltender, I think, last playoffs.
Sorry, I should say good enough with the potential to be great.
Yeah. That's probably Team Canada's starting goaltender. Going into the next Olympics. Aiden, it's probably the competition is 1A, 1B between Aiden Hill and Stuart Skinner. This is an elite goaltender, and I think he deserves the respect out from what he did in the playoffs last season. It was a completely shaky start at the beginning of last season, but the playoffs proved everybody wrong if you have any doubts about Stuart Skinner.
He's 25, about to turn 26. That's right around when goalies come into their own, and we saw him come into his own in the playoffs last year. He's great.
I know it's not intentional, but sometimes when we talk about these teams, the great players seem so obvious that you almost don't need to say it.
Them? Yeah.
I think we got through the Edmonton Oilers preview last year without mentioning Connor or Leon.
What are we going to say? Oh, it's the best player in the world.
Yeah, well, I mentioned Leon off the top.
Do you think he makes
Jesse, what do you want to say about Connor McDavid?
He's the best player in the world. He's probably going to win the Hart Trophy.
Whoa. Well, here's what I got. How about this? We always do the over-under for points in the standings.
And we will in a sec, yeah.
Over-under, Connor McDavid points. I'm going to set it at 131.5 because last year he had 132. He had 30 in 76 games, mind you. So you know what? I'm gonna set it at 140.5 because 76 games, 32 goals. Oh, okay. 100 assists. He's so stupid.
I like that.
He's ridiculous.
Okay, so then that brings me to the end portion here. The over-under for the Edmonton Oilers in seasonal points, regular season points, is 108.5. They finished the season with 104 with that terrible start. Mm-hmm. And they still finished with 104. 108.5 is the over-under. Who wants to go?
I'd beat that over like it owes me money.
Absolutely. Now, Steve, do you have them finishing first or second in the division?
First. Vancouver's good. They're really, really good.
And they're rebuilt.
And, the question marks in net. Like if you have the Oilers and Canucks tied, to me that's the easy tiebreaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, what do you have over under 108.5?
I'll take the over, but I have the Canucks winning the division and Edmonton finishing second.
Can I ask why?
I think
Stupid.
I think Vancouver's a stronger regular season team. I think the consistency is going to be there throughout the regular season to win a division, and I think we don't want to say it's a factor, but playing that late into June and having a short summer takes a toll on players. So I can see Edmonton getting off to a slow-ish start again, not slow like last year where they're 30th in the league come November 1st, but a slow start to where they're not world beaters again. And I can see Vancouver getting out to a hot start.
There you go. Okay.
For that reason, by the way, Jeff Skinner, good fantasy pickup. Just saying. He'll be rested.
I am thinking that Edmonton Oilers are obviously going to go over on the points at 108.5. I think they are going to win the division. And the reason I say that, I agree with all of Jesse's points. The only question I have is really not the Oilers. It's Vancouver. How healthy is Thatcher Demko? And that's so and apparently he's going to be able to play and be fine this year, but like how healthy is he in the early going? And I think that could make or break the difference.
Totally.
I'm giving it to the Edmonton Oilers. And that is your 10-minute preview.